Before King Von would team up with his Only the Family running partner Lil Durk to drop the new track All These, I can't say that word. Before King Von would tell the whole world a bunch of times that he would never mess with Tekashi 6ix9ine. Before King Von would find himself under house arrest while facing an attempted murder charge.
They say around 5 in the morning on February 5th, Lil Durk, whose real name is Dirk Derek Banks, and his co-defendant Devontae Bennett were seen on camera involved in shooting Alexander Witherspoon, a person police say they knew.
Chicago-born rapper King Von, he dropped his sophomore studio album, LeVon James, earlier this year, and he made huge waves in the rap game. In fact, your boy King Von, he made such an impact that even LeBron's son, Bronny Jr., well, he was bumping Von's music inside their LA home. The 26-year-old rapper has never lost touch with his roots, and in fact, right before the entire world came to a standstill thanks to COVID-19, well, King Von, he was in the middle of his PTSD tour with G Herbo, who's actually his childhood friend. They grew up together in the south side of Chicago. Coming up on those mean streets, well, King Von, he was no stranger to problems of the legal variety. In fact, he spent his fair share of time locked up over the years, including 2 years when he was still a teenager. But all that time in jail, it gave him some much-needed perspective, which he transformed into a thriving career as an up-and-coming rapper. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Michael McCrudden back at it again with an updated look at the life story of King Von, here for you before they're famous. Hey, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Boom! King Von was born Davon Bennett on August 9th, 1994 in the south side of Chicago, and he grew up in the O Block.
It'd be decent over there, cause they got all type of shit over there, and that's why it'd be fun and shit. So I take the hoes to the O. It's like a little, what you wanna call it, a mini resort, I wanna say.
This building complex is otherwise known as the Parkway Gardens, and it's the same area that produced Chief Keef.
Parkway Gardens in Woodlawn was first constructed in the early 50s as a 13-acre co-op with winding paths. With 35 buildings and nearly 700 units, it quickly became a premier housing choice for African-American families.
When I was growing up, this was considered the elite property for doctors, lawyers, nurses, professional people that lived over here. This was the cornerstone of our community.
Now, King Von's mother, she did her very best by her kids, but poverty and violence, they were a big part of everyday life for most people that grew up in this part of Chicago. In fact, Von, he never really got a chance to know his father because he was locked up before Von was born, and then subsequently he passed away.
His father was, he was like back and forth in jail, like he was locked up most of the time, and then he passed away. So he was there when he was able to be there.
Music bed.
I was upset, angry, disappointed. It's a whole lot of different emotions because it's my first child father, and he don't get to see him grow up, get to see the things that I'm able to see,
Despite the streets being a huge part of his upbringing, well, Von has always denied ever joining up with a gang when he was young. In fact, he tried to focus on having a normal life by playing baseball, where he played first base shortstop. He told XXL, "I used to play baseball, I was playing even in high school, I with that shit." But of course, even with other things to focus on while growing up on the south side of Chicago, it meant that it was nearly impossible to avoid trouble. Now, King Von, he started off small enough. At first, he'd just steal bikes in middle school, but by the time he was attending Hyde Park High School, well, he was going to jail at 16 after being arrested and booked for unlawful possession of a firearm. While he was still attending Hyde Park, well, he became friends with G Herbo, and he struck up a friendship that would ultimately result in King Von realizing what he wanted to do with his life. He told Complex, "That's my boy, and now we're on tour together. He's younger than me. I was like a junior when he was a freshman. I was a junior and then I went right to jail. I was getting in trouble, then he gets to rapping and I'm seeing him going up from jail, then I started rapping." Now, for the next 10 years, well, King Von, he would never spend more than a full year outside of prison. Now, in fact, he never even graduated from Hyde Park after being arrested and spending a whole bunch of time in juvie. Now, he did manage to earn his GED while locked up over the years, but he never actually held a job other than the work he'd put in on the streets. Then when he was still only 19 years old, well, he was arrested again, this time in connection with a shooting that took place in May of 2014. Now, he was charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder.
I got charged with it when I was 19, 2014. When I was 19 years old, and they let me out when I was 23.
So you were locked up for 3-4 years?
At that time, 3.5 years. But before that, I was locked up for 15 months, and then before that, 14 months. Just really my whole teenager, to young adult.
King Von sat in prison for over 3.5 years while the legal system, it did its thing. Now, when the trial finally took place, it only lasted 5 days. Now, one of the men arrested with Vaughn was sentenced to over 20 years of jail time. But Vaughn, who never once cooperated with authorities, well, he was acquitted and he walked out of prison a free man.
The time they read the verdict and you hear not guilty of this charge, this charge, this charge, this charge.
Oh, that shit felt crazy.
Was it emotional?
Yeah, I don't know, you know.
After overcoming a murder rap that would have put him away for life, well, Vaughn, he turned to inspirations like Lil Wayne, Gucci Mane, and his childhood friend G Herbo to look for a path off of the streets. He began drawing from urban novels and things he had experienced on the streets to create his own lyrics and met up with a friend and mentor, Lil Durk. Now together they started cranking out banger after banger, and within 6 months, well, Vaughn, he had a series of viral hits on his hands. This included Crazy Story.
Like, they calling me like, man, that nigga going crazy. But he ain't really believe, because he like, I just started rapping. Like, well, we dropped that song. We dropped the song and dropped it like, we did the song and dropped it like a week.
Despite pulling from true to life stories and his music, well, King Von, he isn't a fool, and he knew that he had to obfuscate some facts to make sure he didn't wind up locked up again. That's a big word, obfuscate. I don't know why we use that. Anyway, he told Complex, "I'm not gonna tell you about nothing I did. Hell nah. I'm not gonna tell you about it if it's real. Who'd I rob? You hear some shit in the music, but I'm just telling you stories. I'm an artist with this shit. I'm never gonna give you anybody's names or anything." Remaining loyal to the boys who helped you get where you are has always been an important facet of life for King Von and his friend Lil Durk, who signed Von on his Only the Family label in 2018.
Vaughn wouldn't be able to get a job nowhere else, probably.
Oh, what?
Shit, when you get to that line, have you ever been convicted of...
He could then start making...
Have you ever been
No
arrested
experiences doing nothing. I ain't, you know.
Now, both of these guys have expressed their great disdain for clown prince of rap Tekashi 6ix9ine, the biggest self-declared rat in modern-day hip-hop. And over the past couple of years, well, they've made it clear that they don't roll with the likes of him. Despite the success King Von was achieving, well, old issues, they cropped back up in early 2019 after he and Lil Durk, well, they were arrested for attempted murder in Atlanta, Georgia.
They were hanging out. They went to a studio to make music.
The rapper and Bennett listened to the evidence against them in court. Police told the judge later that night the victim, Banks, Bennett, and others went to a nightclub, a gas station, and ended up in the parking lot of the Varsity. That's when Weatherspoon said he was robbed and shot.
Now, King Von and Lil Durk's lawyer, they argued that both men, they were simply defending themselves during an altercation that saw one man shot in the leg and $30,000 up and disappear. Now, while this case is still pending, well, Von and Durk, they were both eventually released on $300,000 bail. Now, since then, Von, he has released his Grandson Volume 1 mixtape, and he followed it up with LeVon James, but he continues to be under house arrest to this day. Then again, aren't we all? You know what I mean? It's probably the best time to be on house arrest.